What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, colorful ESPN boxing pundit and analyst Max Kellermann, he goes in on legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO Bob Arum, and he does it in a soft manner. And he's alluding to the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, which includes top-ranked and ESPN's fighter, undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, and currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who widely is considered the best fighter in the world, Terence Crawford, against undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer ERROL Spence Jr. With that said, Max Kellermann, he says he's tired of hearing all the excuses coming from the promoter. Now, why do I say that he did it in a soft manner? Because he says he's tired of all the excuses coming from the promoter. There's only one promoter involved, and that's Bob Arum. Errol Spence has an advisor in Al Haymon, who's the founder of the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions. Al Haymon is not a promoter. So when Max Kellermann stated that he's tired of all the excuses and all the hurdles being put in the way by the promoters, and he wants them to remove all the excuses so we can get what he called our Super Brawl instead of the Super Bowl. He said this weekend we are going to get and witness the Super Bowl, which is the biggest event in the sport of football, NFL, National Football League, right? He says at the end of the year, he said in the summer, we're going to get, a conclusion to the NBA finals, right? Why in our sport is there a holdup? So he says the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, he says some can argue that it is Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua for undisputed and heavyweight. He says, but the mass majority of the fans, if you ask the hardcore boxing fans, the true boxing fans, he stated that the biggest fight in the sport of boxing is Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. And he titled it the Super Brawl instead of the Super Bowl, the Super Brawl. And he says, we want our Super Brawl, and we tired of the promoters standing in the way and preventing these fights with all these excuses. We want our Super Brawl now. Max Kellermann, he's going about it in a roundabout way, right? He's not going to outright say Bob Arum needs to, move out the way and allow this fight to take place. Bob Arum stated that he would allow this fight, to marinate as long as they don't want to, meaning Al Haymon and Errol Spence Jr. don't want to part ways with the 60-40 offer from their side because they are the A side. He says that it's a 50-50 fight. And so until they come around and get on board with it being 50-50, then we'll just continue to allow them to continue to put on pay-per-view events and continue to lose money. When in fact, the person losing the money is Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford is losing out on these legacy fights. Terence Crawford is going on 34 years of age. Terence Crawford, 37-0, 28 wins by way of knockout. He's currently 33 years old, but he will be 34 years of age September 28th, and there is no date in sight for his next fight. He stands at 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. He's a switch fighter. He switches from southpaw to orthodox. He last fought November 14th against former IBF welterweight world champion British superstar boxer Kell Brook, in which he stopped Kell Brook in dramatic fashion in that fight. With that said, he's running out of time, okay? Terence Crawford doesn't have, Father Time is not on his side. Father Time is the opposite. It's against him, right? As everybody else, every day you wake up, you're a day older. So, Father Time is against everybody. But when you come to the sport of boxing and sports overall in general, Father Time, you're racing against Father Time, okay? Errol Spence, 27-0, 21 wins by way of knockout, 31 years of age. Southpaw, stands 5'9.5", nearly 5'10", with a 72-inch arm reach. He last fought December 5th against two-time 2-division world champion Danny Swift Garcia, in which he got a unanimous decision victory. So this is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. But the numbers don't lie. The proof is in the pudding. Errol Spence has just been reported to do the biggest live gate of 2020, meaning that he has received the most support out of anybody in his last pay-per-view. We know over Terence Crawford's career, he's had 2 pay-per-view events, one against Amir Khan and one against Victor Postile. Bob Arum, he stated that the Victor Postile fight did anywhere from 50 to 60,000 pay-per-views, which wasn't good, and Bob Arum says we lost money on that. And then the fight with Amir Khan, Bob Arum said it did anywhere from 130 to 150,000 pay-per-views, in which Bob Arum stated that that wasn't a success, okay? So we know Errol Spence did 350,000 pay-per-views with Mikey Garcia, 325,000 views with Sean Porter, 310,000 pay-per-view buys with Danny Swift Garcia, okay? But what's important here is the live gate, okay? The fans that are showing up, and the fans are showing up for Errol Spence. He's done a bigger live gate. He's grossed more revenue than even Canelo Alvarez, 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer, okay? So with that said, Errol Spence stated that 60-40 is, a suffice in my favor because I'm the bigger star, I'm doing the bigger numbers, and I'm fighting a better competition. We know Terence Crawford, he stated that he has yet to fight a legacy fight. He's yet to have a Hall of Famer, and he's yet to have that high-profile fight on his resume in the ESPN special with Andre Ward called Relentless. Okay, so with that said, Bob Arum, he does not want to lose money on Terence Crawford. Bob Arum stated going into the Kell Brook fight and even after the Kell Brook fight that he's lost so much money on Terence Crawford that he could build a mansion from scratch in Beverly Hills. So with that said, Errol Spence is well in his right to state that he's the A-side and he demands the bigger share of the pot. Bob Arum does not want to lose money on this fight, okay? Bob Arum wants it to be 50-50 so he could break even, okay? He gets a share. If it's 60-40, right, Terence Crawford makes significantly less money than Errol Spence because he has to pay a percentage to Bob Arum, a hefty percentage to Bob Arum, in which Errol Spence does not have to pay. So if he only getting 40% and he has to give a percentage of that to Bob Arum, he's going to make more money than he's made in his career, but he's not going to make the generational wealth that he's looking for. Errol Spence in the fight, I'm sure that there has to be something paid to the PBC, but it's not in the form of what Terence Crawford has to pay to Bob Arum, who's his promoter, okay? ESPN, he has to pay a lot of people. That's not what Errol Spence has to do. Errol Spence essentially is his own boss. Errol Spence that's why he has to do a lot of promoting. He has to do a lot of the negotiating, right? Because he essentially is his own promoter. Al Heyman is an advisor. He can advise him, I'll advise you to go this direction or go this direction, okay? Just like Errol Spence stated that after he suffered that horrific car accident, after unifying the belts September 28th of 2019, October 10th, he suffered a horrific car accident, and he's been out the ring for 14 months leading up into his fight with Danny Garcia. But prior to that, he stated that everybody was calling for him to fight, tune-up fights, right? To just make sure he's back to his normal self, right? To get his feet wet again, to get acclimated back to the sport of boxing in a live event. And Errol Spence said that he turned it down. He says, no, I was already scheduled to fight Danny Garcia prior to this car accident. I'm going to resume as planned. So that's exactly what he did, and he dominated Danny Garcia coming off a 14-month layoff. So with that said, he's just doing the bigger numbers. He's fighting a better opposition, and he has more control over his career. Now, with that said, Terence Crawford will be a free agent in October, but that's a long ways off. But there is big fights right now that Terence Crawford can have, bridge fights, until he's a free agent and see how that plays out. But he could fight Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor winner. They're looking to fight May 8th or May 1st, okay, depending upon what date Canelo Alvarez chooses to fight on. That's Cinco de Mayo weekend against Billy Joe Saunders in a unification bout. So they don't want to interfere with that. They don't want to fight on the same date. So they're looking to fight the opposite date. So whichever date Canelo Alvarez so chooses, they're going to go in the opposite direction. So with that said, he could fight the winner of that fight. Both guys have shown and expressed interest in fighting Terence Crawford. So they move up. There's a storyline there. The last two undisputed junior welterweights face off, and they both would be undefeated. That speaks volumes. It's a big fight for Terence Crawford. And they're both very big guys. They're both Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor. They're both 5'10". They're both very big guys for 140 pounds. And they both have, let it be known that they struggle to make 140 pounds because they're both big guys. So them moving up should not be a problem. And it's a big fight for Terence Crawford. Like I said, the storyline is the last two undisputed junior welterweight champions. He was, and whoever wins that fight, and they will be undefeated going against each other. So that's a big fight for Terence Crawford, a farewell fight to Top Rank and ESPN, and if he so chooses to part ways in October. But that would be a huge fight that he give them before he exit. So he has that fight, and obviously if they fight in May, they're not going to be ready to fight again until August. Now, that's a long time for Terence Crawford to be sitting on the shelf. Like I stated, he last fought November 14th against Kell Brook. But if he does wait until August, he fights the winner of that fight. Then in October, he's a free agent. And then he could look to part ways and make the big fights. He expressed that if he knows, he's very aware that if he wasn't with Bob Arum and Top Rank, that he can make these big fights. He does have another fight on that could be on the horizon, and that's against his WBO mandatory #1 challenger in the former two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Sean Porter. And Sean Porter has expressed that he is completely focused and full steam ahead about making a fight with Terence Crawford. He likes his chances against Terence Crawford. He's fought who's who in the sport of boxing. He's fought Errol Spence. He came up short, but it was a very close fight. It was an exciting fight. He came up short against Keith Thurman. That was a very close fight, exciting fight. He beat Danny Garcia. He beat some of the best world champions in the world. So that would be a huge fight for Terence Crawford. That would be just as big, if not bigger, than a fight between Terence Crawford and Josh Taylor Jose Ramirez winner. So Terence Crawford has a fight. Now, if he fights Sean Porter, again, that's a bridge fight, right? Or he could wait. Now, here's the key, right? He can wait, work out a deal with Sean Porter because Sean Porter's a mandatory, so he's going to push for his position and, his opportunity for the belt. But he could tell Sean Porter, listen, we stand to make more money if you wait till I'm a free agent and we both fight on the PBC and keep the money in-house. Let me fight Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez. That's an in-house fight for me, my last fight with Top Rank at ESPN. Then let's say that took place in August, okay? July, August, right? Around that time. And then let's say now he could fight Sean Porter in November, right? And he's a free agent. And then, because Errol Spence more than likely is going to face your Danis Ugas. Now, another thing that Max Kellermann did state that this fight needs to be for all the marbles. It needs to be for undisputed, okay? And I agree. Now, that means that somebody has to fight your Danis Ugas, who is currently the WBA super champion after former 8 division world champion, Filipino superstar, iconic boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao was stripped of the WBA title that he beat Keith Thurman for via split decision. So now your Danis Ugas is the last key to the puzzle before we get undisputed between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. So your Danis Ugas seems to be on a collision course with Errol Spence Jr. Most people, as I will, favor Errol Spence to win that fight against Ugas. He wins that fight and gets that belt. You say now Terence Crawford, he has a fight with Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez winner. That's a big money fight for him. Goes into his mandatory showdown for the WBO because he has to satisfy that against Showtime Sean Porter. Let's say that took place in November. And then we have in the first half of 2022 for undisputed Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. That makes all the sense in the world. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. That's all I got for y'all. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.